Today, I want to talk about a sensitive subject in regards to relationships, and it has a lot to do with longevity and time. Now, you probably heard many situations before where you would have a couple of people that were involved in a long-term relationship, be it 5 years, 10 years. They've been rocking together, ups and downs, and the whole 9 yards. And they finally do that final breakup. And within a very short period of time, one of the people get involved in a new relationship, and not even less than a year or two, they've married that person. Now, know a lot of people are wondering, well, wait a minute, how are they going to turn around and meet that person and marry them? But I've been with them for 5, 10, 15 years, and we never went down the aisle. I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why, and it might shock you a little bit. Have you thought that maybe the fact that you put in all those years, it doesn't guarantee you a damn thing? So what? You might have helped put some money on the books when he was locked up. So what? You nursed her through her sickness. That was great and wonderful. But the thing is that the two of you never had a real detailed talk as to where the relationship was going. Y'all vibed on day one, and you've been vibing for 5 years, and vibing for 10 years, and vibing for 15 years. You were just around each other because that was familiar and you were comfortable. They say familiarity breeds contentment. I beg to differ. Just because somebody's been around you that many years, I hear people say all the time, oh, well, she was with me when I went through so and so, so that's why I'm with her. I mean, I don't want to be with her, but she did so much for me, and that's why I can't leave. See, it's not even about love anymore. It's about being obligated, feeling morally obligated to that person. And I have yet to see anybody who is in a fulfilled relationship be there strictly because they are morally obligated to that person. Relationships can't be built on just that. And also, do you know people have a tendency to outgrow certain situations within 5, 10, 15 years? I know for a fact the same thing that was going on with me 5 years ago ain't going on with me today. 10 years ago ain't going on with me today. 15 years ago ain't going on with me today, because life is about growth and change. And whether we welcome it or not, as long as we are on this earth, things are going to grow and they are going to change. People's bodies change, people's minds change, people's situations change. And you can't turn around and take a situation with a person that you had on day one and you expect it to feel the same way and look at it in the same manner in day 13,001. It's not going to be the same. People outgrow certain situations. And this is where the difficulty comes in, because you're wondering why after all these years we can't even stay in the same room together. We can't talk to each other. Things aren't as sweet as they used to be. You might have this back and forth thing going on where you can't stand each other today, but when you get together, you have makeup sex for about 2 or 3 months thinking that everything is wonderful, when in actuality, you really never even addressed your issues. You just had incredible makeup sex, and then you wind up having another blow up, and you split up again, and you're back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until one of you dies. That's not a good quality of life, people. It really isn't. But both of you are afraid to cut it off because you're so familiar with each other, because you've been around with each other for such a long time, and you misinterpret that as love. No, you're just familiar with each other. Just because you're familiar with someone and they've been around does not mean that you are in love with them. And this is the reason why when that final breakup does occur, because somebody gets fed up and somebody gets tired of the fact that things aren't progressing the way that they should be progressing, and they're getting older and realizing that everything else in their life has changed but this relationship, they lose their patience and they move on with their life finally. And lo and behold, here comes someone that offers them what they were missing with you. That's why they rush off and get married so quick to this person. That's why. Because that one thing that was missing, or two things, or three things, or whatever the case may be, that was missing from your relationship that they thought they had with you, they realized they didn't have. And also, when they get involved with this person, they realize they don't have to go on this emotional roller coaster with you. They're emotionally stable. There's a little bit more trust. And also, this person is probably more of a progressive thinker than you are. They probably accepted the fact, you know what, let's grow together, instead of trying to keep things the same as they were 5, 10, 15 years ago. See, this is where you got the situation where you got this dude going around saying she's ride or die. Okay, you know, there's a lot of definitions in that phrase, ride or die. And in some cases, it's good to be a ride or die, but some cases it's not. Especially if you are involved with somebody who's at least 10 to 15 years younger than you. But you want to be involved with them for 5 or 10 years and you expect everything to be the same. That person is still growing. If they are that much younger than you and you want everything to be the same as it was, you're going to have a problem. Because that person is still growing. Maybe you're at a level where you don't want to make any changes and you want things to be a certain way. Okay, that's fine. But that age gap is so large, there's a possibility that that person's mindset is totally different from the day that they met you. So don't get all butthurt after the fact and say, oh, well, you know, I was with her for 12 years and and this happened and that happened and you know how great. But when things finally fell, all of a sudden I see she done went off and married this dude and only known him for a year. That ain't gonna work out. How do you know? How do you know? He's offering that missing piece. She is offering that missing piece. I hear stories all the time from women sitting up there complaining about, you know, my ex turned around and met this woman 6 months ago and all of a sudden they get married. That junk ain't going to work. He's going to be back. And you were with him for 7, 8 years without any real commitment. Okay. He came across somebody else that's not going to sit there and put up with all that mess for all those years. He came across somebody who is a progressive thinker. Let me tell you something. Progressive thinking people are not going to wholeheartedly commit themselves in a relationship to one person for 5, 10, 15 years without any sort of commitment. They're not going to do it. Not if they're a progressive thinker. They're not going to do it. So what's going to happen is they're going to lose their patience at some point. And when they do and they finally do cut the cord on that, they're going to come across somebody else who's a progressive thinker. And they are not going to be about no bullshit. They already got it in their mind how long, if they got involved with somebody, how long it's going to be before it's going to be either a serious relationship or they're going to go their separate ways. They already know in mind what they want. They wouldn't fathom thinking about stringing anybody along for 5, 10, 15 years and not doing anything, because that's not in their genetic makeup. It's not in their thought processes. So, of course, when this person meets that person, that's the missing piece. Yeah, they're going to jump on it because first of all, they're like, wait a minute, I'd be a fool not to. That's where the emotional stability comes in. You could be with somebody for 15, 20 years, okay, that's fine. But if you haven't given them a firm commitment on that level during that time, guess what? There's no emotional stability. There isn't any. You haven't lived together. You haven't been engaged. You haven't got married. You still got one person living in one part of town, one person still living on the other part of town after 5, 10, 15 years. Both of you have the freedom to walk away from each other. And after all that time, you're not one step further, closer to anything than you were the day you met. You're not. And you're wondering why there's conflict. And then you're wondering why when this person turns around and finally does leave, you're wondering why when they come across a person, it's not long after that they're going down the aisle. It's bound to happen. Humans are social creatures. They're not going to sit around and be by themselves for long. And it is naturally acceptable for someone to want to have someone that's offering a little bit more than somebody else. Now, the way they may go about that might be questionable, but I'm just saying, if you see somebody that has a little bit more that they're willing to offer you at less of a price, you're going to go for it. You're going to go for it. It's not going to be the toxic back and forth. You're going to have that sense of security. You're going to have that calm. You're going to have that peace. Once upon a time in graduate school, we used to do different social projects. We used to do little fake projects where we would have one person be the patient and the other one be the therapist. And I remember there was one case where we were talking about relationships, and we were trying to do a bit of conflict resolution, and there was different activities that we needed to do. And I remember there was one situation where I was the so-called therapist, and the other student was the patient. And this particular patient that the student was supposed to be one that was supposed to be torn between two lovers and not sure exactly which one to be with, and it's causing them all this anguish, so they're going to see their therapist, aka me. And I was given the assignment of performing this activity, and I think it's something that you might want to consider doing too if you're caught up in a situation where you're confused. Now, there are 2 times during the day where we are at our absolute most raw state of mind, without rational thought or analysis. That's when we first wake up in the morning and when we first go to sleep. When we're in deep sleep, there's no room for rational thought. Everything is very basic. So when the patient started talking about how confused she was about what was going on and everything, my job as a therapist was to tell her, okay, this is what I want you to do. What I want you to do is close your eyes and relax as much as you can. This is not a form of hypnosis. I just want you to be as close to a meditative state as possible. Get rid of all distractions and just clear your mind. Now, I'm going to give you 2 names. Now, while this person is asleep, I'm going to be using my cell phone camera because I'm going to be filming them while they have their eyes closed. I said, I'm going to mention 2 names, and these will be the names of your lovers. So I would mention the first name, and I would record their facial expression while they have their eyes closed. Then I would wait a little while. Then I would say the other person's name, and I would record their facial reactions while their eyes are closed. See, while your eyes are closed, you can't look in the mirror. Yeah, I said it. While your eyes are closed, you can't look in the mirror. So what I'm supposed to do is take those 2 recordings, and I'm supposed to view them. And what I'm going to do as the therapist is I'm going to look at those recordings, and I'm going to look at the body language. I'm going to look at the facial expressions. I'm going to listen to the breathing. I'm going to determine which one has a more relaxed state, which one has a more agitated state. And when we're dealing with emotions, 9 times out of 10, our expressions are going to come from our face. We're either going to smile or we're going to relax, or our breathing is going to become more relaxed if we're happy or more agitated. Our body will tense up if we're frustrated. We'll smile when we're at ease. And in those two instances, when I mentioned those two different people, I noticed that there was agitation, there was a tensing, there was a facial frowning of the brow, frowning of the mouth, rapid breathing, agitation when that person's name was mentioned in the first clip. And in the second clip, that person's breathing started to go down. It was very, very shallow, very calm. They started to smile a little bit. I picked up a sense of a giggle, very relaxed. And so what we had to do later on after we did our analysis and our reports and everything else, the very next session, the follow-up session, we would show those videos to the person. And that would help them decide who they needed to be with. See, the subconscious has a lot to do with how your feelings are, your emotional state. And even though we may think in our minds that we're crazy in love with someone, love goes a lot deeper than we think it does. So if you are torn between 2 or 3 or 4 lovers or whatever the case may be, try the experiment. Close your eyes. Have someone call the names of those people and videotape your reactions. Video it. And then after the fact, look at the videos and you look and see which ones are the best. Because there's going to be that one that shows you total peace. That'll help you decide who you need to be with. Just a little tip. Just saying.